Well, welcome everyone to the kitchen at Colonial Mackinac in our commanding officer's house. I'm here today to share with you one of our 18th century recipes. We are going to be making a recipe called Parsnip and Carrot Fricassee, and at this time of year we actually have kind of a limited amount of vegetables available to us. So parsnips and carrots are both things that actually store really well. And here at the Straits, we've got incredibly sandy soil. Root vegetables grow really well. We can store them in damp sand, we can store them in cellars or in sawdust, and they will keep. So that is what we are cooking today. And to get started, I've already got my fire going. I have a pan in the fireplace that's preheating, and I think we're all set to go. All right, so we are ready to get started with our recipe. The first thing I need to do is throw some butter in the pan and get that melting. Butter was not always made at Mackinac. In fact, it was usually shipped in. We're on one of the biggest trade networks in North America, so it was quite easy to get things shipped out here. Generally, the butter would have been salted to preserve it. So we're just going to throw a little pat into our pan. Hopefully our pan is hot already. I've got it sitting right by the fire. Yep, I can see it starting to melt. So we're good on that. And then I'm going to get chopping our vegetables. If you've never had a parsnip, some people compare them to white carrots. They are white inside, but they're a bit sweeter and earthier, I feel like, than a carrot. And they're a pretty common 18th century vegetable, so we'll get those chopped up. Again, these would have been grown locally. We don't really have record of fresh vegetables like this being shipped in, but we do know that for this house in particular, the DePeysters did have a garden. It shows up quite clearly on some of our maps. We don't know exactly who would have been tending that garden. We don't know exactly what would have been grown in it, but we can get a pretty good idea from sources that are other sources that mention the types of foods that were being eaten. And this household would have been an English household. The commanding officer and his wife were, of course, a part of the British military. And so they would have been eating roughly the same things that they would have been eating when either Rebecca was in Scotland or when Captain DePeyster was in New York, which of course was British at the time. All right, so we've got our parsnip chopped up. Now I'm going to chop up a carrot or two. Whoops, carrot down. We'll leave that one for the mice. Sometimes I am very surprised at how long root vegetables will last, not only in a cellar, but also just in the garden. Our carrots, we actually mulch really thickly, and then we can take them out of the garden whenever we need them. I went out yesterday to look for carrots, but right now the soil is actually really frozen. I couldn't even get a shovel in. So these are from our back stock. Perfect. All right, and then I was able to find some green onions. We actually grow a type of onion here called Welsh Onions, and they are perennial and do incredibly well in our cold winters. So there were just these little bits of onion poking up above the snow. So this is kind of a special thing. We don't have a lot of them, but I thought they'd be nice to toss in with the fricassee. All right, so we've got our vegetables chopped. Now I'm just gonna throw those in the pan, and I'm actually gonna bring the pan out of the fireplace because it's a little bit hot. So we'll set that there. We've got our melted butter. We're just going to cover this and let it cook for just a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to throw in our mild spices, and I'll talk about those in just a second. Also, not the most efficient way to do it. Perfect. Give it a little stir to get all that butter nice and coated on there. Beautiful. All right. I think I'm going to move my pan just a little bit closer. And one of the good things about the fireplace is that it's really easy to moderate the temperature by just moving pans closer or farther away, or adjusting the logs, pulling coals from one spot to another. And we do get a lot of questions about safety, but really I know where the fire is. I do burn myself once in a while, but it's never a big deal. Okay, so as I said, that's going to cook for just a couple of minutes. And what's going to make it really taste good is this spice blend called mild spices. Sometimes it's also referred to in the 18th century as kitchen pepper. It's a combination, recipes vary, but the combination that I like to use is pepper, ginger, cloves. This has salt in it, and a little bit of nutmeg. So that's the spice blend that I like to use for our fricassees. It's also really nice with meat, vegetables, eggs. It's a good all-purpose, sort of like the 18th century Mrs. Dash. So I do hear those vegetables starting to sizzle. I'm gonna give them another stir. All right, at this point, I'm going to put a little bit of water in the pan and cover them, and they're going to cook that way until they're enough, which is a way of saying until they're tender. And then we'll deglaze the pan. So I've got a little bit of water, so that's gonna go right in there. Perfect. And then I'm gonna cover it with this other pan. All right, I think the vegetables have cooked a little bit. I'm going to add in our mild spices, and this really is to taste. I usually like to put a half a spoonful to start, and we'll give it a stir. And then if I feel like we need more, I'll add more. I think we need actually a little more. We'll add just a little more. Perfect. They're getting close to being done, but they need just a few more minutes. So I'm gonna put the lid back on. The next time I take it off, we will be ready to deglaze the pan. All right, I think our vegetables are ready to come out of the fireplace. I'm going to set them on the table and do a little bit more to prepare them for the plate. Oh yes, they look lovely. Oh heavens, and they smell really good as well. So we've got them nice and hot. To scoop them out onto the plate here. Oops. Perfect. I guess they could have cooked for a minute or two longer, but good gracious, they smell nice now. So I think we're gonna pull them out now. Oop, a little sloppy. Perfect. And then I have a little bit of verjuice, which is fermented unripe grapes. So it's kind of like a vinegary flavor. I'm gonna pour some of that in there. Make sure that we scrape all of that good stuff out of the pan. Whoops. That's why we wear an apron, right? I think we've got it all. And that's also going to add another layer of flavor to the vegetables. And One of the things that a lot of people ask us about is, did the food taste good? And absolutely, so many fresh ingredients, lovely spices from literally around the world. Food tasted good. So let's see, I think that looks good. We're gonna pour that over the top. And maybe we'll toss a little bit more onion on it as well. Set my pan down here. Perfect. And there we go. We've got a lovely 18th century side dish. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this cooking adventure. We have successfully made a 18th century side dish of parsnip and carrot fricassee. Please visit our Mackinac Associates webpage to donate or become a member. It helps support programs just like this one. Again, thank you for joining us and have a great day.